And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos, and I'm here along with my good friend, the man, the myth, the legend. He is the evil genius behind Humanica Media. It's Josh Pederson. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. I picked up a Nintendo Switch this week, so I've been kind of diving into the world of Zelda a little bit.
Yes, from the man who absolutely loves Nintendo.
Okay, let me tell you a story though. So I was at Target and they had two sitting on the shelf, and I felt like I don't know, it's like this weird impulse. I was like, everybody wants this right now, so if I picked it up, then that's just one less that everybody else can have.
Well, this is true, but everybody really wants the NES console, the mini. That's what they want the most, because those suckers still go for 5, 6, 7 times their value. Now, if you had one of those, then we're talking. But the Switch, it's still great demand. GameStop just recently reported that they still cannot keep them in stock throughout an entire business day. So it still is very strong, well over 2 million sold, closing in on 3 million. Zelda is also closing in on 3 million as well, sales worldwide. So it's definitely tracking at or near Wii sales. In some places, it's even tracking even higher. So that being the case, how do you like it so far? Is it working out as far as, from playing Zelda, the online system? Just let's get some general thoughts on Nintendo Switch from one Josh Pederson.
I haven't tried any of the online stuff. I logged in, created my profile. I've been playing. I haven't even played it on my TV yet. I didn't know that the console basically is that the pad with the Joy-Cons attached to it. I thought that the charging station was the actual console itself, and the thing was just like the if you want to go like another controller. But no, so far I like it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it once I finish playing Zelda, just because there's not a lot out for it. But Zelda looks great for a game that's on a cartridge. Zelda looks it's a really beautiful game, and it kind of takes me back to those JRPGs I used to play as a kid. Like Legend of Legaia, Phantasy Star, stuff like that. It's fun. It's a little walk down memory lane, I guess.
Well, I've been thinking about it for the past few days as far as the sales for Nintendo Switch, and it just reinforces, some of the things that Nintendo does, because we every week we scratch our heads at the decisions that Nintendo makes each and every time that they go and make something that I don't know, that we would question. Like, for instance, last week we were talking about the 2DS XL and why that's even in existence, why they got rid of and discontinued the NES mini console. Just decisions like that. They didn't get into the mobile market as soon as they should have, things like that. But they make these puzzling decisions year after year after year, but it doesn't always pan out against them. I mean, yes, it hurt them when it came to the Wii U, but then again, their shipments weren't as prevalent as they should have been for the Wii. But look at that. That sold over 100 million units. Here again, that they're making mistake after mistake after mistake, and it just reported now that they're actually having to fly the units over here to even come close to meeting the demand, and that it's costing them greatly because of it. Up to almost $50 a box is actually going on just flying and freight. That to me is just, it's great that they're trying to do what they can for their fans, but still, these little things add up over time. But you would think that Nintendo would be worse off because of it. But I tell you what, hey, right now it's working for them. The Switch is a wanted product. It's supported by the Nintendo fan base in full. Obviously, it has a great, capabilities as far as from the portable standpoint. Yes, it's underpowered. Yes, it's a little overpriced still, but you see it as something that you like to play, and provided that the software down the line supports it, hey, it's no problem. But then again, the third-party software has never been a great, strong attribute of the Nintendo systems. It's been always about the first party, correct?
Yeah, that's kind of Nintendo's strong point. You know, you have your Mario's, your Zeldas, your Star Fox, your Metroids. I think that's going to be a lot of the key uh, components to the success of the Nintendo Switch. Because honestly, like a lot of these indie games that are out, or a lot of like these ports that are coming out, if you haven't already played them on another console, you're probably not going to play them. I mean, if you're one of those people that has a Switch and just wants something to do, you'll go and pick up like The Binding of Isaac or Elder Scrolls or whatever when they come out. But uh, Nintendo is very reliant on first party developers, and it seems to work for them. I mean, if the Nintendo Switch is this popular and they only have a Zelda and Mario Kart out, it's just you know people will continue to buy it, it would seem.
And it looks like that's correct. And even a general consumer base seems to be adapting to this quite nicely, and the interest is high as opposed to the Wii U, which in many ways had the same type of marketing strategy, and even the Wii to some extent, where they could only focus on their games. We had tons of third-party software and shovelware, but really, when it comes down to how many third-party software titles do you remember from the Wii? Not many, right? It's just mainly all first-party software that everybody cares about when it comes to Nintendo. So it seems like in this case, it's the demand is high, and it's going to stay high for at least some time to come. It's been 2-3 months now closing in on as far as the Switch being out, and it definitely looks like something that people will be wanting long term. And if that's the case, watch out. PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, even though you're a better value at this point in time, still people seem to like what Nintendo's offering at this point in time. But now that you have it, what kind of future holds for you, as far as what do you want to see going forward?
I'd like to play. I just like to see like something good, like that's outside of their Super Mario I want to see something outside of their normal franchises. Maybe like a new IP coming to Switch that will make me remain interested in it. Because as soon as I finish Zelda, like I'll probably play Mario Kart and maybe what's the Mario whatever the new one is that's coming out.
Oh,
But
Super Mario Odyssey.
yeah, Super Mario Odyssey. But beyond that, like I don't see myself playing it that much, and that's the thing that concerns me. That was what I thought after I bought it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it when I finish these games.
I bought it. Now what? Right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. So I really hope that they have something that pulls me into it. Maybe at E3 they'll bust out some sort of new IP, or a port of something that I actually would want to play. Like as far as like
But they're not going to have a presentation per se. They're going to have probably some treehouse type event, and maybe show off some stuff, because I believe they still might have some presence there, of course. But they're not even going to have a formal presentation like Sony announced theirs today. Microsoft is going to have theirs beforehand, Bethesda, EA, whatnot. But Nintendo again is bucking the trend, and it seems to these days not cost them one bit when they buck the trend and go in a different direction, and marketing wise.
Right. I don't understand Nintendo. I don't necessarily like Nintendo, but whatever they're doing, people, I guess they have this way of like making things scarce that makes people want to buy their stuff, or they'll only release like a limited amount, and people keep eating it up, and I don't understand how that works. But what the future holds for the Switch is anybody's guess right now.
Indeed, it's anybody's guess, but I think right now I've been won over as far as the interest in the Switch, and like I said, to me it's overpriced and it's underpowered. But do I still want one? I'm kind of leaning on it. I'm more to the point where I'm leaning towards getting one at some point in time, as opposed to the Wii U, where I was always on the fence because I just didn't ever see enough. But with the Switch, you see the potential future for it, and now I think that a lot of people are going to be able to go behind, as far as to get behind it, as far as from a third party standpoint. So at least there's going to be a lot of games that people recognize that are on there, and the fact that it's more portable, obviously, than the other units that are out there and available, makes it more attractive. And with the fall of the Vita and the 3DS and 2DS, at some point becoming so antiquated that it's going to go, bye-bye at some point in time. The Switch may be the most, attractive portable device out there. It's for some, in some sort of fashion. So definitely looking forward to that indeed. If everyone out there has their thoughts on the Nintendo Switch, now that Josh has one, we can always share thoughts right here on the show. Give us a holler, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com, plus Humanity Media, Pop Culture Cosmos, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter. And while we're on the subject of Humanity Media, Mr. Josh, what is going on with the wonderful world of Humanity Media?
Yeah, well, we have a new Super BS coming at you this week. I was approached by one of the guys that does the What About This podcast, and they want to do he assembled some people, and he wants to do a comic book based podcast, which is all well and good, but it's just one more thing I'm gonna have to schedule time for, and it's not a bad thing, I guess. But
did you tell him my golden rule when it comes to podcasting?
What's that?
You got to stick to it.
Yeah. I mean,
don't do it, or stick to it, or don't do it.
That's what I said. I'm like, you got to make sure the guys that you get to do this are willing to not just say they'll do it, but commit to it. Because I have like all the podcasts right now. I promote them myself. Like nobody else really helps me get word out there. So, I would like, if I do more podcasts, I would like people to actually put the effort into it to get more eyes and ears on it.
Exactly. I mean, when I see it, I help share it when it goes out there. But I know I see the work that you put into sharing as far as all the wonderful podcasts you've got out there. And check it out, Humanity Media on Facebook. Also, you'll see it on Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, the Best Video Games of the Year Facebook page. You'll also see it on the NU Herald Facebook page. And also you may even see it as well on the Gamer Protection Guild Facebook page as well. So it's going to be another great episode out there for us from the PCC Multiverse. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast. We're one of the top 10 shows on the podcast radio network each and every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, right here on the podcast radio network. Remember also as well, if you cannot catch us live or you cannot catch us on the podcast radio network, you can always download our shows, both the Pop Culture Cosmos show, which is the #1 show on the podcast radio network, every Monday night, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. And then also this show as well, you can download it on Google Play, iTunes, of course, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast.com, Mixcloud, the ESO Network, the Tangibound Network, and the Gonna Geek Network as well. So when we return, we just want to go ahead and play a little bit from the latest Super BS Gamescast. And we're going to get a little bit of that with the man himself right here. He'll be on there coming up right after the break. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos. I'm here along with my good friend. He's the man, the myth, the legend from Humanity Media. It's Josh Pederson. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. And thanks so much for being part of the PCC Multiverse. We just want to make sure we give a shout out to our sponsors, Always Green Synthetic Turf and Putting Greens. If you are in the Los Angeles or Orange County areas, give them a call. Always Green Synthetic Turf and Putting Greens. And I just want to also give a great shout out to our good friend Rob McCallum from Rob McCallum Films. If you want to check out all the great stuff he's doing, including Nintendo Quest, the hit documentary. Now get this, Josh. I don't know if you saw this the other day, what I posted, is that I found Nintendo Quest on a Sony platform. Exactly. Yeah, he just, I know everybody else out there is like, what? That's right. Nintendo Quest can now be seen in its entirety, free of charge, on Crackle. That's right, which is owned by Sony, of course. And you can also see Nintendo Quest on Comic-Con HQ, and you can get a free trial there with all the other great stuff that they're doing on that channel as well. So check it out, Nintendo Quest. It is one of the best documentaries you will ever see, either on video games or in general. It is just an awesome experience to be indeed. And if you want to check out any of other Rob McCallum stuff, it's robmccallumfilms.com. And then also our great friends here in Southern Nevada. For me, it's Retro City Games. Doug and Nicole just do a great job as far as providing answers to all your retro gaming questions, because they are the leaders in gaming in Southern Nevada. Well, we got a great topic, that we're going to bring up right now, because it is another awesome Stephen King adaptation coming around the corner, and that is The Dark Tower. And I know you got a chance, Josh, to see what The Dark Tower is all about. The heavily rumored, the first trailer that was, supposedly leaked and it got out there. And I'll tell you what, it's looking real sweet to me. But someone who's not as familiar to the universe of Dark Tower as I am, enlighten everybody out there what the Dark Towers are all about and why you're excited to see it come this August.
The Dark Tower is what Stephen King calls his magnum opus. It was inspired by a mixture of the Lord of the Rings and old Clint Eastwood movies. So it's a really cool concept. The books have been out for a while.
You just gave me this image of Dirty Harry blowing away Frodo.
That's pretty much, in a way.
Go ahead, just make my day.
Just drop the ring. It's a great. It's a great book series. It's there's 8 books. One of them's a kind of a side story, and there's a comic book series. So from what I understand about the movie, it's they haven't specified whether it's a sequel or just a reimagining of the book series. And Stephen King himself has said that he's been very vague about it. If you actually read the books, you can probably I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't. But from what I understand, they're making a television series too, based on Roland's life before the events of the movie. So we'll see. I hope that they make more than one.
But the trailer, let's get everybody up to speed at least a little bit when it comes to the boy. People thinking he's crazy because the boy is having these images in our world, and yet there's an alternate universe which is very desolate, which looks like it's been destroyed. Then there's a battle between the gunslinger and the man in black. Get at least a little bit up to speed on exactly what all that's about, because the trailer itself, the imagery was great, and it brought me in and introduced me, but it makes me want to find out more. And if you could help our audience as far as where's that leading to, what do you think? Because obviously it's not going to go step by step with the book.
Yeah, see, that's the confusing part, where this takes place in the book series. But the imagery in the trailer. So you have the Dark Tower and all the there's a part in the trailer where you see the beams shooting off the Dark Tower. So the Dark Tower is basically what holds the universe together. So they're like worlds that layer on top of each other. So as you saw in the book, you saw the kid Jake. He goes through a portal that basically takes him into this place called Midworld, which is the world that's that's the Gunslinger's world, and the Gunslinger's world has been destroyed by the Crimson King, which is the main baddie. So Roland who's played by Idris Elba, and he just looks. Any doubts that I had about whether or not he could play that character are just completely gone, because he looked fantastic in that movie. Just his acting, he seems like he's doing it with confidence. He can play the character really well.
So what is the man in black, who's played by Matthew McConaughey? What is his interest as far as destroying Midworld and then maybe jumping over into our realm?
So Matthew McConaughey's character he's like one of those people who they want to be on the winning side of history. So Matthew McConaughey is the man in black, and he's a wizard, I guess. He's like Sauron in Lord of the Rings. So he's a deceitful wizard, and he's responsible for the deaths of Roland's the Gunslinger's his people. Like, he brought them down, and he's the one he's helping the Crimson King bring about the destruction of Midworld and the Dark Tower itself. And if the Dark Tower falls, every world that's attached to the Dark Tower, including, I guess, the one that we live in, would be destroyed in the process.
So I ask you your thoughts on the trailer as a whole. Do you think it spoke too much? I think it just told a generic, basic, roundabout way and get to give people the initial feel of it. And I know there's a lot of people who are not familiar with the Dark Tower series, like I am, as much as they should be, but who might be brought into this. So your thoughts initially on the trailer as a whole, as a way of getting people more interested in the Dark Tower product.
I think it looks great. I'm really excited about it. I was weary about them adapting this book series because there's at first there's gonna be like 3 movies and a TV show, and then it's just there's so much junk down the line. But like I hope they develop this into a franchise. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think it looks great. It's hard to take the story of the Dark Tower novels and put them into words. Like the trailer, I hope if they did it justice that there's gonna be a lot more beef to the story when the movie actually comes out. And it's kind of weird, don't you think, that they waited this long to release the trailer? That's the one thing that I'm weary about, is that it's not going to be as good as we're all hoping because it took them so long to get the trailer to us, because the movie's coming out in like 3 months.
That's correct. It is, well, you've talked about it before in past episodes, that it is pretty much the only thing that's going to be happening in the month of August. It is the major movie event of August, and which, we sort of chided the rest of the month of August on. But I agree. This could be the fact that, it's going to be the only major movie event of August, but it's still, like you said, didn't get enough time maybe for it to be introduced to audiences. I think if they've come up with something clean by, let's say, Super Bowl weekend, and they should have shown it at the Super Bowl, that would have been a good time, because that's a 6-month layer right there. Now you've got a 3-month window to introduce audiences. Now you're going to have to do a heavy marketing blitz and tap into a lot of other movies as far as to show your trailer with, correct?
Right. And what I'm hoping doesn't happen is we have another John Carter marketing fiasco on our hands, where we have this potentially great story that gets just crushed beneath bad reviews because it wasn't marketed properly.
So if that's the case, and the Dark Tower is representing of let's say a starting point, what do you think it's going to represent as far as maybe going forward from standpoint of a TV series, and also as well to more iterations if the movie is successful? Where do you think it goes from here? Where do you think it starts, and where do you think it goes from here?
It's hard to say because the book or the trailer looks like it has pieces of multiple books in it, and as far as it, I would hope that they would make it more than one movie, because the story is so massive and there's so many characters that don't look like they're going to be in the movie, but they hinted at it. And in order to really do the story justice, the story that it deserves, it needs to be more than one movie. Kind of like how J.J. Abrams when he originally was going to adapt it for Warner Brothers, that's how he had planned on making it. But the television, so let's hope that it's successful enough to merit more movies. And I'd be excited to see where it goes, because I've already read the book. So if this is a reimagining of the story, hey, I'm all for it. But as far as the TV show goes, from what I understand, the TV show is based on the comic book prequel. So it kind of shows Roland Deschain's life before the Man in Black started ruining everything, and how that feud was created.
So your gut feeling right now, you're very positive on the trailer itself. You think it's a good representation of the stories at hand, but a gut feeling right now, going into it 3 months in, what are your thoughts? Do you think the movie will ultimately go ahead and achieve a level of success needed for a franchise down the line?
I want to say yes, but see, I'm biased because I love the books. So my inner fanboy is really hoping that these are going to be good movies, or going to be a good movie.
Fair enough indeed. Those are some thoughts from Josh on The Dark Tower, the Stephen King adaptation coming this August. If you have any thoughts out there on The Dark Tower, please let us know. please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also get a hold of us on Humanican Media, Pop Culture Cosmos, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about the next upcoming video game that's coming on the schedule here very, very quickly. And let's talk a little Prey. Are we going to pray that it's going to be a great title? Well, let's find out and see. We'll share our thoughts on the latest video game coming out right after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos of the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source, along with my good friend, the man, the myth, the legend behind Humanican Media, Josh Pederson. Once again, we appreciate everyone listening out there. If you get a chance, also as well, we've got our Monday show on the Podcast Radio Network. It is the #1 show. We truly appreciate you listening out there in such great numbers. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos show every Monday night, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. And both of our shows are available to be downloaded anytime on all those different outlets I was talking about earlier, like Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast.com, Mixcloud, ESO Network, the Tangibound Network, and the Gunna Geek Network as well. And when you download our shows, you will always get, well, actually, we're going to try to keep it that way. Maybe not always, but on as many as we can, we download an extra bonus episode from Humanican Media. Could be Rob McCallum's films, podcast. Could be something from the Wine, Women, and Words. Could be something from Game Source. Any one of those entities, you might get a podcast. Actually, you will get a try. At least we're going to try to give you a podcast every single time when you download the PCC Multiverse or the Pop Culture Cosmos show. Well, Friday is not only a big day because the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is coming out to theaters nationwide. And on our next episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos, Josh and I will have our thoughts on the actual movie as a whole, and we'll know some numbers. If exactly, pretty much get a good idea exactly where the movie is going to be heading box office wise, plus our thoughts, and also we'll gauge as well the word of mouth as well on that episode. But also on Friday, we've got a little title coming out from major software maker Bethesda. It's Prey. It's a reimagining of the mid-2000s video game for the Xbox and PlayStation 3, I believe, as well. But it's not going to be based off of Indian mythology or anything of that nature. It's quite different. It's got more of a horror beat to it. Josh, I know you've been taking a look into the game very closely. I know you've actually spent some time with it, and you're going to be actually taping some, footage as far as you going through the game and whatnot. So what are your initial thoughts on the game known as Prey?
Sorry, I don't know what to think about it, honestly. Like, it's from what I've read about it, it's, they're trying to be like they basically every review that I've read so far, or people who have played the game have compared it to BioShock, and if it's anything like BioShock, that might be a good thing. But I'm curious what they're doing with the property, because I know that I don't know. Did you play the original one on Xbox 360?
I did get a chance to sit down with it for a little bit. I thought it was a really kind of cool game. It wasn't the greatest game I ever played around that time, but definitely was a unique game. It had a different slant to it. I really liked the mythology that was put into there. The fact that Native Americans were treated with a semblance of respect, or I thought anyways, was really good, that aspect, as far as, the way it went. And I thought it was a really good way that Bethesda was going in a good direction. And I thought the follow-up, when Prey was first announced, it looked like it was going to be like a sci-fi bounty hunter type game, and actually, feed into that original Prey even more. But they decided to go back to the drawing board and create something as far as a futuristic thriller / horror game. So my question to you is, do you think this was the right move for Bethesda? Because like I said, the E3, they a few years ago, they showed a different version of this game before they went back to the drawing board, which a lot of people were like very concerned about. So is this something that you think was a right move overall?
At this point, I think so because it's been far too long for them to because they own the property. So and it's been far too long since the last game came out that it's this is really the only way forward with this franchise, because I don't think that if they were to have made Prey 2, it would have looked cool and it would have had like a lot of hardcore fans playing it, but it wouldn't have been able to bring in more people because the first game is so old that you wouldn't have young kids going out to buy it just to see what's going on with the story. So I think it kind of, at this point in in time, it was probably the correct move to reboot the series, and it looks good. It looks like it reminds me of Dead Space a lot. So I'm excited to play it. I've been reading a lot of reviews, trying to keep up with it, watching the videos. I have it pre-ordered, so I will I'll let you. I'll have some videos up that everyone can watch here soon.
Where will they be finding those videos at?
You'll be able to find them on the Humanican Media YouTube page, and I will also post the links on the Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page for you guys.
And also Game Source as well, because I'll tell you what, that's a great place to go for all the latest gaming news as well. So, with Bethesda's series, as far as if you look back at the past few games that they've made over the years, it's kind of a funny that you always seem to go to every now and then. Brink seems to be one that you like to go to as far as being a disappointment is concerned, and they seem to have had their ups and downs. I mean, if you look back in their most recent history, I mean, you see the Doom series, which they really did have done well with the latest iteration of Doom. Wolfenstein, they did a great job on. Dishonored seems to be going in the right places. But then you have games like The Evil Within, which was kind of all over the place as far as success and also as well critical acclaim or lack of it, as far as maybe just middling reviews is best. Maybe An Evil Within 2 may come around, but most people were kind of like, it's all right, but it needed something more. Rage was definitely disappointing because that looked like it was supposed to be a big hit for them, and unfortunately didn't pan out. Hunted, the Demon's Forge, and like you said, Brink earlier, which I know you have some thoughts on as well. Those disappointed for them in the past, but then you have the Fallout series for them, and I'll tell you what, and of course the Elder Scrolls. So I ask you, Josh, what do you see for the future for Prey? Do you see it falling within the categories of maybe a big hit for like a Fallout or a Elder Scrolls title, or do you see it falling maybe into the Wolfenstein Dishonored series where it's done pretty good and it's got those are really good games, or do you see it falling into the Evil Within or less successful titles like Rage, Brink, and Hunted?
It's funny that you bring up Rage and Brink, because Bethesda, I've read interviews where they've said how they don't want to always be associated with like Elder Scrolls, Fallout, your big franchises, and they want to they're trying to create new IPs. But the problem is a lot of their IPs just aren't that good. So I don't know if there's not a lot of thought goes into it, or maybe they're just in such a hurry because they have a deadline to keep because they have another Elder Scrolls or Fallout or whatever other else they have to offer. But as far as Prey goes, I see it being kind of like Dishonored. I see it being a game that is fun, people like it, gets good critical review, but we won't.
Wolfenstein too, because last Wolfenstein got very, very good reviews, and it sales wise, it did very, very solid.
Yeah, Wolfenstein as well, but I don't think it's a game because Dishonored, we had what 3 or 4 years before we had a sequel. I think that is going to be what happens to Prey, but I wouldn't wait 3 or 4 years because the game already has a bad stigma attached to it, saying like, oh, the last time you promised us that we didn't get anything. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it, but I don't see it like climbing the upper echelons of gaming like their big franchises do.
Well, that's definitely some sound reasoning indeed. I just hope it's, like I said, it's going to be a game worth playing. Hopefully take 20, 30 hours of good quality game time, as far as maybe filling it out for complete experience. That's what I'm hoping for. It seems to be trending in that right direction. What are your thoughts out there as far as, have you seen some footage already on Prey, and are you gearing up for the title? Are you going to be able to get that on your list? Do you want to play right away, or is it something that maybe you want to wait and see how it transpires with word of mouth and also sales and critical wise as well? Share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Humanican Media, Game Source, and Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, when we return, it's going to be the What About This podcast. And before we head to the break, can you set up the latest What About This podcast so when they come out of break, they can, the great audience out there can get a little bit of better picture on exactly what's going on in this clip coming up from What About This podcast?
Right. So this episode revolves around the controversy about the 13 Reasons Why series on Netflix and when it's appropriate for suicide to be used in art and entertainment and whatnot. There's a lot of people aren't too happy with the way that suicide is being portrayed in the show. And I'm personally one of those people, but we sit around and we actually have a debate about it, and there's all kinds of different sides. You get to hear some stories like my own experiences with depression and Kyle's experiences with therapy and whether or not it works. There's a lot of good stuff. This is probably the deepest topic that has been explored in What About This, and it's available now on Podbean. We'll play a clip in a few minutes. Check it out.
So you're saying the Beatles versus Nirvana wasn't the deepest conversation you guys have?
Probably not, but that one was pretty good too. It's
because you said there was some blood spillage there.
Okay, so that was intense. That was an intense podcast. This one was more like intellectual, I guess.
Fair enough. But it's a great subject matter indeed, because it's very topical. Obviously, 13 Reasons Why was, something that's been brought up, and a lot of parents, a lot of kids out there are watching it. A lot of parents are concerned about the content of it, and definitely it's bringing a lot of issues to the forefront in regards to depression, suicide, and what have you. So it's definitely topical indeed. And right after the break, you will be listening to a segment from that podcast indeed. So it's something to look forward to. And that's the What About This podcast, available on Podbean, also as well iTunes, as well podcast.com. Is that correct? And YouTube, of course, as well. And then also the Pop Culture Cosmos and Humanican Media Facebook pages. And then you never know. Well, actually, it might even show up as on the back end of one of our upcoming podcasts, maybe even this one as well. You'll have to check and see if it's going to be a bonus podcast coming up right here on the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out the show. This is the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you listening to us out there. Once again, Monday night, check us out, our Pop Culture Cosmos show, which is the #1 rated show, the #1 rated program on the Podcast Radio Network. We truly appreciate it. It's every Monday night, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Also, as well, catch it on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast.com, Mixcloud, ESO Network, the Tangibound Network, and the Gun Geek Network as well. And I also want to give out a shout out to everyone out there that helps provide content and also good things towards this podcast. For instance, like Humanican Media, of course. Thank you to Josh and everybody who partakes in it. Hyperschmidt, Plasma Z, as far as Mario Party Wars, Rob McCallum Films, Retro City Games, a number of great people out there, Wine, Women, and Words, the wrestling podcast About Nothing, the great show on Tuesday nights on the Podcast Radio Network. Also, as well, the TV ratings guides, our good friends. We're going to be talking to them here in the near future as well. So definitely looking forward to that need. And everybody else who's helped make the Pop Culture Cosmos show and the PCC Multiverse such a widely listen to product. We just truly appreciate you doing that indeed, and all your help that you've given us. So I thought we'd close out the show on something that Josh really enjoys talking about, and that's the comic book characters and comic book heroes. No need for, we're not talking about Captain America this time, so don't worry. So we're not talking about the Secret Wars or anything like that. We had a heavy discussion on that on our previous Pop Culture Cosmos show, and check that out as far as the future of the comic book industry is concerned. But Netflix is at it again with Marvel and the Marvel Universe with the Defenders. And I know Josh has got a chance to check out the Defenders start to, I guess, wage their battle to save New York from Sigourney Weaver and all the henchmen that you can throw a stick at. So I ask you your thoughts on the Defenders so far, and do you think it's going to be another big hit for Netflix and the Marvel Universe?
Yeah, I think so. I don't, it's.
Did you like that jab at Iron Fist?
Yeah, but I think that's a healthy jab. I liked Iron Fist. I don't know why everyone keeps saying it's the worst of the show when it's the most streamed show on Netflix right now. So it's hard for them to like. I don't understand where this is coming from. Maybe people are watching because they think it's bad, but if that's the case, they wouldn't be watching it from the first episode to the last episode. But as far as the jab in the Defenders trailer goes, I think it's good because in the comic books, Iron Fist and Luke Cage are actually really good friends, and they have that younger brother, big brother, no pun intended, dynamic between the two of them, and it looks fun. Honestly, like I think it looks cool. Like Sigourney Weaver, I wish I knew more about what her character was, and I hope that it's not just Elektra's the bad guy, because that's Daredevil's story. Let's keep those two separate. That's what I'm hoping, that she'll just be like a side character. But is the trailer looks good. It looks like we don't have to worry about that awkward team bonding like they had in Avengers. When everyone first started out and they hated each other, Iron Man was being a jerk to everyone. It looks like these guys they're all sarcastic to each other, and they just kind of jump right into that scene. So
but they had some, blending as far as it's concerned beforehand to set up the Defenders, correct?
Exactly, yeah. And we have crossovers. Nick Cage was in Jessica Jones. They alluded to Daredevil in the other shows, but Luke Cage and Jessica Jones are the only two characters who have actually come across each other and met each other. And I think that every show that's been on Netflix has brought a piece of the Defenders together, whether it's from the villain standpoint, the storytelling standpoint, the hero standpoint. So it's going to be fun to see all these pieces kind of come together in the same series. And Netflix has yet to make a show that's disappointed me. Granted, I wasn't a huge fan of Jessica Jones, and it took me a bit to get into Luke Cage, but I didn't hate them, and I didn't stop watching them halfway through. I think that the 12-episode concept is a really good tool for storytelling. That'd be like what if it were a movie, it'd be 3 or 4 movies. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it does look more promising than what I've seen as far as the collective whole of the other shows. I think of the shows that I've seen, Daredevil stands out to most for me. I think but it had the advantage of being the first, and they were able to have more time to develop that over the 2 seasons now that the Daredevil has been out. I'm really liking the fact that they already have an interplay with each other, and they're already being, like you said, snippy and sarcastic to each other in a fun-loving way. That's nice to see, especially the fact that some of the other aspects, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and also Iron Fist, didn't always resonate well with critics or audiences. So that's good to see that maybe the collective whole the team will work better than just the parts. The sum itself, collective sum, will work much better. I'm also interested to see what the Punisher, what role and what part he has to play in it, because he was not featured in the trailer, but he is going to be part of the Defenders in some form or fashion. Is that correct?
I don't know, because they've been really mum on that. I've heard different things. I've heard the Punisher won't be a part of it, and I've heard the Punisher.
It's already being his show is already being produced. It's already up and running, correct? In production.
Right, but he doesn't really have anything to do with the story that's going on in Defenders. He doesn't really have anything to do with the Hand, and so I think it might be too much to add him into the series. It'd be cool to see a cameo maybe, but I wouldn't count on him being a big part of it.
So, if that's the case? What are your thoughts on the collective series as a whole? And do you think that seems to be a back and forth whether or not the Defenders should be included into the regular MCU when it comes to the Infinity Wars concern? Your thoughts on that, and a way to see if Netflix going forward will continue. How do you think they're going to be able to continue this going forward with Netflix and the Marvel Universe?
It's going to be tough because a lot of the things that happen in the actual Marvel universe, it's so large scale that seeing it, you'd have to see they refer to the Battle of New York in Daredevil and whatnot, but with Thanos, like the aftermath is going to be so large scale that you can't keep them separate. If they allegedly exist in the same universe, you can't keep these properties separate anymore. And yes, I would love to see the Defenders in Infinity Wars, but how they're going to do that is going to be another problem in itself, because they're not really on the same playing field as Iron Man or Captain America.
But they are with Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Yeah, true. So Daredevil had a huge part in Civil War, the comic book. So I think if it's done right, if the writing's done correctly, and the introduction is not like kind of forced, is more organic, I think that it could work. But I think right now we're having one of those Game of Thrones situations where it's telling us, no, these characters are never going to cross over, and then come Infinity War Part 2 or whatever, we'll probably see Matt Murdock and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist. That would be the hope. I would hope that it's because Marvel always delivers to their fans, so that's what I'm hoping for.
Do they? Didn't we just talk about them not delivering to their fans?
Well, I'm talking about in the MCU as far as the movie cinematic universe is concerned.
I didn't mean to bust your chops, but
yeah, no.
I'm just gonna call it out like I see it, because they're currently not doing it in comic book form. Although make sure everybody out there knows that when this airs Friday on the Podcast Radio Network, and also if you're able to download it initially, remember Saturday is Free Comic Book Day, so please visit your comic book vendor and make sure you ask if they're going to be able to, or if they are involved and are participating in that, because I think it's going to be a great way for people to get involved with the comic book scene. And if you've got loved ones out there who you think might be interested, I think it's a great way to get them started in the comic book realm. So, and believe me, the comic book industry, after what we talked about on our Monday show, definitely needs it indeed. So your final thoughts on the Defenders? You think it's great and whatnot? You think it's going to be a very positive sign for the Netflix Marvel Universe? What do you see going forward for the Netflix Marvel Universe after Punisher and the Defenders, of course?
Well, they've already talked about Daredevil season 3. They're setting up another season of Jessica Jones. As far as I know, Iron Fist is going to get another season. Luke Cage will. How these characters are going to, once they intertwine with each other, how they're going to make them disperse again is going to be interesting. But because
do you see any other characters being able to get their own series? I know Hawkeye has tried to sell himself as far as for a Netflix series.
It's funny too, because a lot of people were hoping Ghost Rider would get his own series, but they're now using that character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't ever really mentioned anything about these street level heroes on the Netflix series. So I think they're kind of all over the place. Like I don't know if they have a plan going forward. I know for the main movie lines they do, but as far as the Netflix shows go, I know we'll have the Punisher, and there are all kinds of heroes they could add into the mix there. But it was just.
Do you see the Inhumans getting a home there, or are they going to stay in ABC or the MCU?
I don't know. See, Inhumans, they're on ABC, right? Is that what they were talking about?
Well, I know they were originally, I thought it was a movie that was, originally on target for being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then it was strangely taken off. And then I heard maybe rumors that it's going to be in the ABC realm. So I think at this point in time, I would lean towards the ABC for them. But I think it would be a better fit in the Netflix Marvel Universe personally.
Yeah, because they have more freedom with the Netflix stuff. Like they go darker. They can, because ABC, like even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like it's not very good production value compared to Netflix shows, which are more cinematic. The budgets are higher, the acting's better, and I think that's a big like turnoff for a lot of people when it comes to watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But Inhumans would fit perfectly on that Netflix show, or on the Netflix Marvel stuff.
Definitely, it's something to look forward to indeed. So I like the way it's shaping up so far for the Defenders, and I'm hoping for more good things. What are your thoughts out there on the Defenders, and where do you want the Netflix Marvel universe to go? Do you want to see them involved in the Infinity Wars? Do you want them to stay separate? Let us know your thoughts, and also what characters would you like to see in the Netflix Marvel Universe series as well. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com, also as well Humanican Media, Game Source, and Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, before we head on out of here, one more time, Josh, can you tell us what's going on with the wonderful universe known as Humanican Media?
Right, we have the Super BS Gamescast, a new episode coming at you this week. There are some other things in the pipeline. It's just a matter of scheduling and people and all that good stuff. So as soon as I know something, you'll know something. But next week we will have a new What About This? And if you haven't yet, please download the new episode of What About This? You got to hear a little snippet of it earlier in this show. But please go to iTunes, go to Podbean, podcast.com, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast from, please go check out the latest episode of What About This? Because it is a really great episode.
And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm also going to be able to put it up on Mixcloud by itself, but I will be attaching it to this download as well as an extra bonus if you hear the PCC Multiverse as well. So it's either or type of thing. We just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to hear that great content, because I think it's a great subject that people need to listen and be able to talk about honestly and openly with their family, their friends, their loved ones indeed, because we always talk about light stuff and pop culture stuff and whatnot, but when it comes to real serious issues, we finally have something that's really good to talk about, and I definitely commend you and everybody else at Humanican Media that sat down and talked about it on the What About This podcast indeed. Well, it's been another great episode of the PCC Multiverse. We just truly appreciate you being a part of the broadcast here today. And I'll tell you what, if you have any questions at all about our show, about our Monday show, if you want to send us a thoughts on stuff to talk about, we always are accepting it as well. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. If you are out there and you want to hear more of us, well, tell you what, we're always available, like we said, Mondays and Fridays, and you can always download our shows at any time at your leisure on all those great downloadable channels. So we truly appreciate it if you do so indeed. So for Josh Pederson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening, and here's hoping you have yourself a great day.